There's a really upsetting piece out in The Guardian. It came out Saturday, November 29th, and I just read it, and I want to share it with you. It's entitled "Deeply Demoralizing: How Trump Derailed Coal Country's Clean Energy Revival." Earlier this year, I talked about how many electricians in Maine in particular were put out of business because Biden had all of these Green New Deal projects that included building solar panels, and Donald Trump came in and just cut out all of the funding. And so many electricians in Maine who voted for Donald Trump voted to lose their own jobs. They voted basically to fire themselves and also to destroy their whole industry. How many blue-collar Americans voted for their own oppression, voted against their own best interest because they believed the lies of Donald Trump? And More Perfect Union a couple of weeks ago put out a story where Bernie went to West Virginia and he was talking with coal miners there and their families about how economically devastated they are and how they voted pro-Democrat, pro-union for decades, and they felt abandoned by the Democratic Party. And so they voted for Donald Trump because he said he was going to revive their towns. He was going to fix their industry. And now they're realizing they're all losing their Medicaid. They're losing their SNAP benefits. Things are far worse for them than they were before. That Donald Trump is not a populist, that he's not delivering on any of his promises. That what they wanted was populism and what they got was a liar who is all about corporate greed and corruption, somebody who wants to cement the power of the oligarchy, someone who never cared about working class people at all. And I cannot stop thinking about that story. I cannot stop thinking about those folks in Appalachia and the way that they have been struggling for so long, feeling so abandoned by the Democratic Party, and they got hoodwinked by a grifter. They got hoodwinked by a con man who never cared about them, never was going to bring back the coal industry, never was going to make America great again. He only ever intended to destroy this nation and enrich himself and his buddies in the process. So I was so upset then to see this story in The Guardian, but I think it's really important and I want to share it with you. For a moment, Jacob Hanna saw an unprecedented opportunity to make Appalachia great again. In 2022, the Biden administration earmarked billions of dollars to help revitalize and strengthen former coal communities. The objective was to lay down building blocks for the region to transition from extractive industries like coal and timber to a hub for solar and other advanced energy tech, with a view to long-term economic, climate, and social resilience. Donald Trump has a heavy industrial vision for this country. He loves coal. He wants more coal, except not in West Virginia. He's done nothing to help provide jobs for folks in coal mining towns. Right? Make America Great was all about regression. It is a reactionary movement looking back to a time in the past, trying to take the nation backward. This plan from Joe Biden was about taking these coal mining and timber towns and moving them forward, helping them build the foundations to have more prosperous economies, more socially responsible economies, more environmentally just economies, helping revitalize these towns that have been so long neglected by the Democrats and the Republicans alike. Too many people in Appalachia are struggling so hard. It's so easy for people in California and here in Portland, in big cities, to just have zero concept of what life is like for people in rural Appalachia. I went and built houses with Habitat for Humanity when I was in high school in West Virginia, and I was not prepared for what things were like. Anyway, so Biden had this program, a really good comprehensive program that actually would have helped these folks so much. But on his first day in office, right, Donald Trump, all about retribution, all about punishing Joe Biden for his win, his first day in office, he scrapped Biden's clean energy and environmental programs, which he called woke, anti-American liberal hoaxes. We knew we were living in a historic moment, not just because of the amount of funding, but because the whole region was being mobilized to meet the moment, said Hannah, 33. It was a once-in-a-generation cash injection designed to prioritize extraction-based communities, timber and coal communities, as part of the energy transition, which for the first time in almost a century made Appalachia very competitive. So to have it all taken away is deeply damaging and demoralizing. Hannah, a fifth-generation Appalachian with a bushy beard and a signature wide-brimmed hat, has been crisscrossing the country on a mission to raise philanthropic capital to limit the economic damage caused by the Trump regime, taking a chainsaw to Biden-era grants. Hannah runs Coalfield Development, a nonprofit headquartered in Huntington, focused on rebuilding Southwest Virginia's economy and social fabric. through workforce training, job creation, and revitalizing abandoned buildings and mines in some of the most forgotten corners of coal country. Coalfield development has trained more than 4,000 people, including many formerly incarcerated and or in addiction recovery folks over the past 15 years in everything from solar installation to drywalling to first aid. Yet historically, federal grants for regeneration efforts in Appalachia have been mostly top-down, project-based, and short-lived. The 2022 cash injection that came through the Inflation Reduction Act, Biden's landmark climate and infrastructure legislation, was designed to help revitalize and strengthen former coal communities over the long haul. It was the largest investment in Appalachia since the 1960s war on poverty under Lyndon Johnson. I don't know how it wasn't communicated to these folks what Joe Biden was doing for them and how Trump would undercut it, but in response, coalfield development spearheaded a coalition of universities, unions, nonprofit businesses, and local governments to create collective infrastructure and capacity, enabling coal-affected rural towns across the U.S. to access more than $900 million of the historic IRA investment. Rural communities in Appalachia were on the verge of breaking ground on projects when the grants were paused or terminated by the so-called Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, led by Elon Musk. The wholesale cull included $3 billion of environmental and climate justice program funding created in the IRA to tackle the climate crisis and environmental harms at the local level. The cuts have deepened existing mistrust in government, known colloquially as Appalachian fatalism, yet many of those interviewed by The Guardian blame Washington politics generally rather than blaming Trump. This party has taken away the funding from Appalachia illegally. That's a stone cold fact. But by the time those facts reach communities on the ground, it's just so muddy. I think some are asking questions about why training is being shut down and why they didn't get their SNAP assistance. But where they'll find the answers is the big issue. Huntington, West Virginia, with 45,000 residents, was perhaps a perfect place to build a coalition for this massive IRA investment. Located on the Ohio River, it was once a major transportation hub for the region's coalfields, but has suffered major economic and social decline as the surrounding mines shut down. And then it became the epicenter of the opioid epidemic. It sits in the heart of the Bible Belt, which once voted loyally for Democrats, but like many blue-collar regions, is now part of the loyal MAGA base who believed Donald Trump when he pledged to resuscitate coal country and put America first. Trump won big in West Virginia in the past 3 elections, securing every county in 2024 with an average of 70% of the vote, the highest percentage any party has won in the state's history. His vote share was even larger in rural counties such as Clay and Wayne, which Huntington straddles. The Guardian went to go work on this story 5 weeks into the government shutdown, days after Donald Trump announced that millions of Americans would not receive food stamps and that Tesla shareholders had approved a $1 trillion pay package for Elon Musk. The article then goes on to list numerous economic projects that have all been stalled, empty buildings, tax incentives gone, funding gone. Like, the economic consequences for these towns are so obvious. Voting for Donald Trump cost them jobs and prosperity, but it's even more than that. In Lee County, where 85% of people voted for Donald Trump, more than half rely on food stamps. Not only that, but they had received a grant to help them demolish a derelict supermarket that was an asbestos-ridden eyesore and flooded frequently, and to turn it into a green space that would mitigate future flooding. What do you think Donald Trump did with that grant money? People in Appalachia are used to being let down by the government, but this time we had the money. It was taken away and people feel betrayed. Here's the thing. They don't blame Donald Trump. They blame it generally on government. They just have a general distrust of government. Regardless of who's in power, there's a lot of finger pointing while life gets worse for the common people and the oligarch class keeps winning, said a local business owner, Orville Overton. I don't think people know who or what to trust because both political parties have failed us in big ways. And therein lies the message. Come back for part 2 because there's more that you're going to want to hear.